Today on NewsWatch, Hurricane Hermine's deadly impact. The storm ruining the holiday weekend for many and still keeping northern states on edge. Plus, the first Great Awakening. Hear about the preacher with an official license to dissent and what his faith meant for religious freedom in America. And the message of the cross is the message of hope. We'll show you a clip from the new movie about Hillsong United called Let Hope Rise. Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. For many on the Atlantic coast, Labor Day weekend has been wet, windy, and dangerous. Hermine's high winds and heavy rains left a deadly impact in Florida and North Carolina. And across the Northeast, tropical storm warnings are ongoing. Dale Hurd has the story.
Former Hurricane Hermine killed 2 people after coming ashore in Florida, then continued up the coast and battered the Northeast.
You can feel it in the house when the waves hit, the pilings shake.
Now a post-tropical cyclone out in the Atlantic, the former hurricane is churning up dangerous waves and potentially life-threatening rip currents.
Lifeguards have been very, very careful with keeping people out of the water.
Governors along the eastern seaboard have taken emergency precautions. New York City beaches are shut down for the second day in a row. New Jersey has declared a state of emergency in some coastal counties. Crews have been working through the weekend building up sand dunes to keep the storm surge at bay.
Absolutely ferocious.
Hermine slammed into Florida Friday as a Category 1 hurricane with 80-mile-per-hour winds, knocking down trees and power lines and causing death.
I look out my window and we have an ocean on our front porch.
Florida Governor Rick Scott spent Sunday morning meeting with emergency managers in flooded Pasco County, where rising waters forced several evacuations.
There is a lot of water that still has to move through our county, and so we're not out of the woods yet.
After it left Florida, Hermine delivered high winds and torrential rain to Georgia, the Carolinas, and Virginia, leaving some entire neighborhoods underwater and creating this giant sinkhole in Wilmington, North Carolina. Hermine remains a powerful storm sitting off the coast of New England like a bad guest who won't leave. Officials are urging people to use caution and stay out of the water as the threat of potentially deadly rip currents remains extremely high. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Labor Day marks the traditional start of the presidential election campaign, and this weekend Donald Trump kept up his outreach to minority voters by visiting a church in Detroit in order, as he said, to learn. He promised to fix what he called many wrongs facing African Americans. Trump swayed to songs of worship, read scripture, and donned a Jewish prayer shawl during Saturday's visit to Great Faith Ministries International.
I am here to listen to you. I fully understand that the African American community has suffered from discrimination and that there are many wrongs that must still be made right.
Trump praised the black church as the conscience of our country, and he said the nation needs a civil rights agenda for our time. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton has been keeping a light schedule on the campaign trail, and it's now been 275 days since she held a full-scale press conference. But she'll face off with Trump for the first time this Wednesday at the Commander-in-Chief Forum in New York. Another missile test by North Korea. The communist nation fired 3 suspected medium-range missiles today. They traveled about 620 miles and landed near Japan. Officials in South Korea say it was an apparent show of force tied to the G20 economic summit going on in China now. North Korea has carried out a series of missile tests recently with increasing range. The communist regime aims to eventually build long-range nuclear missiles capable of reaching the United States mainland. Some young Christians want their tech-savvy generation to put down their devices and embrace God. They recently gathered together from around the world for a prayer effort called Korea Uprising. Asia correspondent Lucille Toulousan was there and has the story from Seoul.
God is saying, I want a generation all for me. I want a generation all.
11-year-old Caleb Sierra tells the young delegates at a Christian conference they will be a generation that dedicates itself to God. Uprising is a global prayer effort designed to take on a crisis facing the church. Pastor Jerome Ocampo calls it an inability to reach and inspire young people.
And that's why they don't go to church. They're more inspired with music, with sports, with all kinds of other things. They're distracted with technology, with the cell phones. You know, we call it the weapons of mass distraction. They're massive distraction of this generation.
They chose South Korea to host the event because it's a prime example of what's happening in the world. For years, churches looked to this country as a beacon. In fact, South Korea is the second largest missionary sending nation in the world. Ironically, in the last decade, the Christian population here has dropped from 25% to 15%. Less than 3% of young South Koreans go to church.
Materialism and secularism have crept into our churches. Also, the scandals involving church leaders have affected the integrity of the church. The church has failed to be salt and light, and the people's hearts are far away from God. I believe prayer is the key that will solve our problem. And through uprising, God sent foreign spiritual soldiers to bring revival to Korea.
Young people from 37 nations gathered to pray and fast in an effort to bring Korea's youth back to church.
There's a strong passion for God that is rising in the hearts of the delegates here, and it's this revival fire that they will bring to their homes, to their schools, their offices, their countries, to affect change in their sphere of influence.
On the last day, the delegates gathered near North Korea border for prayer, worship, and the reunification of the Korean peninsula. They asked God to empower young people like He did David to defeat the Goliaths of their generation.
So we said, why don't we gather the Davids of the world and face the Goliath of division at the border? Out of this uprising, we are releasing to the nations, to 37 nations, very, very powerful young people. They will change the world.
We want one Korea that, because God loves unity, God wants unity. And I believe that's going to happen, I believe.
Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Seoul.
It's wonderful to see their hearts crying out to God. In other news, former Heisman Trophy winner and NFL quarterback Tim Tebow is another step closer to playing professional baseball. ESPN reports the Atlanta Braves have definite interest in bringing Tebow on board, possibly for a minor league deal. 28 Major League Baseball teams, including the Braves, sent scouts to watch a recent workout Tebow held in Los Angeles. A baseball source told ESPN that representatives from 5 teams talked one-on-one with Tebow after the workout. Coming up, a modern-day wedding on a historical site where religious freedom came to life in America. Discover the rich history behind Pole Green Church and its first pastor. Welcome back. C.S. Lewis once described history as a story written by the finger of God, and that's certainly true when it comes to religious freedom. Wendy Griffith brings us this look at the life of one Christian leader and one church who played a role in the early days of America's religious liberty.
Kara Schmidt and Vince Oliveri are getting married on a perfect June day in a most unusual place. Under this striking structure is the foundation of an 18th century church with an astonishing history. For over 45 years, the only clue of its existence was this marker. Then, in 1975, it caught the attention of a local Presbyterian minister.
I began to read and find what how significant a place it was, and the thought that came to my mind, your task is to shine the light on the man I really want to honor.
That man is Samuel Davies, the first minister at Pole Green Church and a key figure in the religious movement known as the First Great Awakening.
We see it in almost every colony. We see Great Awakening evangelists, we see revivals, we see these massive meetings, large-scale conversions. It really changes the face of America.
But there was plenty of resistance. Before the American Revolution, British law required membership in the Church of England. Failure to comply could result in fines and even imprisonment. In 1689, the British Parliament passed the Act of Toleration, allowing some Protestant denominations limited freedom. Among other requirements, non-Anglican ministers had to be licensed with the government. Newly ordained Presbyterian minister Samuel Davies became the first so-called dissenter licensed in Virginia. Despite poor health and bouts with tuberculosis, he was asked to lead 4 meeting houses in Hanover and Henrico counties, with Polgreen as his base.
Being fully convinced that Hanover stood in greater need of a minister than any place I knew, I accepted of their call to settle there.
This is Samuel Davies' Bible, where centuries of family events are recorded, including his wedding to Sarah Kirkpatrick in October 1746. Less than a year later, he wrote this: separated from her by death and bereaved of an abortive son.
Because of that tragedy and because of his own sickness, he really thought that his life would be short. It motivated him. I mean, he really thought, well, if I only have so much time on earth to work for the Lord, I've got to make that count.
From the beginning, Davies drew large crowds, including slaves.
Never have I been so much struck with the appearance of an assembly as when I have glanced my eyes to so many black countenances, eagerly attentive to every word they heard, whom their masters generally neglect, as though immortality was not the privilege of their souls, nor the religion of Jesus their concern.
Davies believed that slaves should be taught to read and write because they needed to have access to the scriptures like everyone else. And teaching an enslaved person to read and write in Virginia in the colonial period was really seen as problematic.
Not everyone in Hanover County was pleased with Davies' ministry, especially at this Anglican church led by the Reverend Patrick Henry, uncle of the famous patriot with the same name.
If you were the Anglican minister, and that was the official religion of the colony, if you see the explosive growth of Baptist and Presbyterian churches, it in many ways is a threat.
Reverend Henry fought back with a series of letters to authorities in the Church of England.
I think it my duty to acquaint you with this man's behavior. I need not inform you of the present distracted condition of my parish, nor of the future disturbances I justly apprehend.
His nephew, the younger Patrick Henry, was 11 when Davies arrived. He attended Polgreen regularly with his mother, later attributing his own success as an orator to Davies' example. On July 1st, 1759, after 11 years in Hanover County, Samuel Davies delivered his final sermon at Polgreen. More than 5,000 people attended.
If I have been so happy as to improve you in divine knowledge and help you in your pilgrimage through this wilderness, I esteem it one of the most delightful actions of my life. I have preached to you as a dying man to dying men.
Davies' next assignment, Princeton University president. Less than 2 years later, he died at age 36. 100 years later, Polgreen Church still thrived, as shown in these drawings by a Union soldier in 1862, the only images of the church that survive. On June 1st, 1864, Union forces tried to break through Confederate lines near the Totopotomoy Creek. Polgreen was caught in the crossfire. Tragically, a local boy fired the fatal shot. 19-year-old William White of the 3rd Richmond Howitzers.
A stream of fire rises from the roof of that old time-honored house of worship, set on fire by a shot from my own gun. There my ancestors had worshipped the true God. Now it was passing away in the red glare of war.
This is the original 4 acres we started with right here.
Mm-hmm. The church was never rebuilt until Robert Bluford came across the marker. Since then, he's been consumed with bringing the church back to life. One day, while with an archaeological team, he felt something under his foot.
Scraped the dirt aside, and there was this brick, whole, complete brick. And within an hour, we uncovered the complete footing of this
You're kidding.
This building.
This is the first house to come down.
Renowned architect Carlton Abbott also caught the vision. He urged Bluford to purchase adjoining land, removing houses to restore the area to the way it was in the 1700s. Then came the question of rebuilding the church.
We thought about doing an image or a ghost structure, if you will. And I think what this church does is bring a simpler feel for how you can approach your religion.
Today, the site includes history lessons on Samuel Davies and the path to religious freedom in America. And it's become a popular site for weddings, like this one, where the groom is a PhD candidate in church history.
God's amazing grace has been preached here since Samuel Davies was pastoring here. I'm thinking about that actually even during the ceremony and as we were picking the place has just been really kind of profound.
A good foundation, indeed. Wendy Griffith, CBN News, Hanover County, Virginia.
What a wonderful story. Up next, Let Hope Rise. The gospel comes to a movie theater near you as filmmakers follow the journey of the revolutionary worship band Hillsong United. Hillsong United has revolutionized modern worship with huge hits like Oceans and Lead Me to the Cross. Now the worship band is featured in a new documentary about their journey. It's called Let Hope Rise. It hits theaters in limited release on September 16th, and they've just released a short clip from the film.
What makes sense of what we do to me is the picture of the cross. Because if you look at the cross, you've got this vertical element, and then you've got this element where it's reaching out. I love that picture. It starts by knowing God and understanding that He loves us personally, and then reciprocating that by loving God and honoring Him. That's what worship is. If this is happening in a way that's honest and real, we're left with no choice but to want to reach out our hands to love others. And that's honestly what the gospel is all about.
One of the songs you'll hear in the documentary is Touch the Sky. The artist leading that song is Taya Smith, who has been with Hillsong since 2010. Take a listen.
What fortune lies beyond the stars, those thousand heights too vast to climb. I got so high to fall so far, but I found heaven as love swept low. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Found me here at your feet again. Everything I am, reaching out, I surrender. Come sweep me up in your love again, and my soul will dance on the wings of forever. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touch the sky when my knees shift up from my heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touch the sky when my knees shift up. Come find me here at your feet again. Everything I am, reaching out, I surrender. Come sweep me up in your love again, and my soul will dance on the wings of forever. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touch the sky.
Wow, love that song and love her voice. We'll have more in coming days about the new Hillsong United film, Let Hope Rise. And just a reminder, the movie hits theaters September 16th, so So be sure to check cbnnews.com for updates. We'll be right back. Finally today, some health news to improve your life. Hopefully you got to sleep in on this Labor Day, because it turns out if your memory isn't working very well, it may be time to hit the sack. A British study of 1,000 adults found that 25% of people who got less than 5 hours of sleep had memory problems. A psychologist who led the study told the London Express newspaper that good sleep leads to better memory. Makes sense, which in turn leads to a better quality of life. So if you can't remember where you put those car keys, just catch some more Z's. That's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here. And you can do that on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.